Stronger ringgit, it will be very good for certain people.
Hello everyone, welcome to Property Zone. I'm Nor and I'll be your moderator for today. So, today we have Sean with us and we're going to be discussing a super hot topic, right Sean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, as you guys know, the ringgit has strengthened significantly, and in just a few hours, the US Federal Reserve is going to announce their interest rate decision. So, that's quite scary, eh? Also, just to top it off, the ringgit has increased by 4.2 against the US dollar. So, what's going on, Sean? Tell us.
Yeah, I think one of the things that caught everyone's attention is like if you look at some of the Facebook news or newspaper, you see like, oh, finally our ringgit has gained some strength, has gone up to 4.2. We haven't seen this for a while, 4.2 ringgit to $1 US. So some of the things they say, is it ringgit is getting stronger, or because US dollar is getting weaker? So one of the way to test it out or to see the actual fact is the US dollar index. So basically, US dollar index will give us an overall and a more objective view and see how is US dollar is doing by itself against other currency, a basket of currency. So one of the things you can see, US dollar index now is at 99.5, all right? So it's actually one of the lowest in almost 1 year. So in other words, it's more likely that the US dollar has actually drops in value against many other currency. That's why we are seeing 4.2 ringgit versus $1 US. But in fact, I have a chart with me now. If you actually look at the Asian currency as general since 2nd of April, which is about 1 month ago, many of the Asian currencies actually has gained so much against US dollar, right? We are actually at number 4. We gained about 5.2% in just 1 month, right? The one that actually gained the most is actually Taiwanese dollar.
Taiwan.
Yeah, I've actually seen a recent news. There are guys, there are people, are businessmen, they're actually queuing in the banks in Taiwan. They are pounding the tables, knocking on the windows to ask the staff to get things done quickly because they want to change the US dollar they're holding to Taiwanese dollar. Because Taiwanese dollar it's actually going up like every hour. Every half an hour delay is costing him 50,000 Taiwanese dollar.
Wow.
It's holding quite a big number of US dollar. But the other thing also reflects is how fast Taiwanese dollar has gone up against USD. It has gone up 10 over percent in a month. All right, then followed by South Korea won. Then go Korea won. The Korea is actually getting more expensive, 6.4%. Thai baht and Malaysian about the same, of 5.1%. Right, Singapore is not far behind, 4.6% increment against US dollar in value. But one thing many of you may be surprised is a currency most of it may not be familiar with. Actually, the Russian rubles. Russian. Okay, since the beginning of the year, it has gained over 27% against US dollar. Okay, so one of the things people say that it's actually indirectly US government actually want this to happen because they are in trade deficit. They want to increase their export. Weaker US dollar would help with their export, therefore help with their trade deficit. That's one of the things. Yeah.
Okay, so Malaysia is number 4.
Yeah.
And as much as it's good that ringgit is strengthening,
Yeah.
I think people are more curious. Like the Malaysians are curious. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? What's going to happen to us?
Okay, stronger ringgit Malaysia. Sometimes it's just like weather. It's a sunny day, good for Malaysian. For people who's out playing golf, right, enjoy the sunshine, it's a good day. But for those who are selling umbrella, for example, it's bad for them because they may not get the business that they want. So what I really want to say is that stronger ringgit, especially in this quantum, it will be very good for certain people, which is importer, right? If you are importing from all over the world, especially from US, right, a stronger ringgit will actually help you to buy things at cheaper price. You're holding stronger currency. but it's going to be very bad for
Business.
exporter.
Mhm.
People who need to export, now they are suffering. Okay, especially you are exporting to US. Because what it means is, for example, just layman scenario, if you are selling a pack of goods to US dollar, you sell to US, right? It's you 100 US dollar, right? Last time you can get back 460 ringgit. Correct now is 4.6. But now you can only get back at 420 ringgit. So you're getting like almost 40 ringgit lesser by selling the same price in US dollar. So that's why stronger ringgit is gonna be bad for people who's exporting. Alright, so but if you are holding mortgages, alright, or you're having a flexi loan or daily rest a loan, you might be a good news that because if Malaysian business, especially the exporting part, is affecting by strong ringgit. So one of the way is the government want to bring the ringgit down. So one of the way to do it, and one of the most common way, not just Malaysia, for any of the central bank in the world to do, is actually reduce the interest rate. In this case, our OPR. So just to give you a scenario calculation. Okay, if you have a 500,000 housing loan that's going for 30 years, at the current prevailing rate of 4%, all right, you'll be paying monthly installment about 2387. But if you drop by 0.5%, or we call 50 basis point, like 4% become 3.5. Then your installment amount will become 2245. There's a saving of about 140 ringgit. All right? But if there's another drop, significantly, it will impact the installment amount. So it's a good news if you are paying for the housing loan. Yeah.
Okay, that's nice. So there's good news for some people, there's bad news for some people. But as we know, it's gonna come out in like 2 a.m. today, right? In Malaysia
2 a.m.
time.
tomorrow.
2 a.m. tomorrow. Okay. So what can we expect from the Federal Reserve? What are they going to tell us?
If you look at the news, you look at most of the, whether it's bankers, analysts, predictions, 95% or even more, they predict this time Federal Reserve is going to hold the rate unchanged, which is 4.5%. Previously it's 4.5, they will expect to remain at 4.5%. So this is the general consensus. More than 90% of the analysts, they say no, they're not going to change anything. Now, if US government is not, they expect the Fed is not going to change anything. Why is so significant? Because with the expectation of not changing the rate is staying in, any changes would have become a surprise. Correct or not? Right, you just imagine that you go on, you expect it's today, 95% is going to be a sunny day. Then suddenly walk out, thunder, raining, it caught you by surprise, right? So this is the exact scenario of this. When more than 90% of people is actually expecting it's going to be unchanged, any differences that come out is going to be a shock to the market, whether it's going up or whether it's going down, because we have two different contradictory data at the moment for Fed to make a decisions to. All right, now Trump, US President Donald Trump, he has actually mentioned to the whole world, I want the interest rate to come down. He's even forced the Federal Reserve Chairman, right, to bring down. If it doesn't bring down, he actually at one time say you're going to fire him. Even by constitution, he has no right to do so. Given the power as a US President, he can't fire the Federal Reserve Chairman. All right? Even though he can't, but he keep putting the pressure on it. And the reason he want to do that is lower interest rate is going to spur, it's going to encourage, it's going to stimulate the US economy. Because for business, it's cheaper to do business. And for consumer, if they're going to take a loan for anything, purchase, financing, it becomes cheaper. So more people are willing to spend, more people are willing to invest, and company willing to borrow with a lower rate. the second part is actually why US President Donald Trump put so much effort, want to bring the interest rate down, right? Because in June, US has a very big part of their debts is going to be due.
Oh.
Not just interest, it's interest plus principal. They're running to about 6 over trillion, right? Accordingly, unofficial data. They don't have this money to pay. Their government bank account, so-called, don't have this amount to pay, and it's far from that. So the only thing they can do is they're going to finance another new loan by issuing a government treasury bills, all right? So that they can take a new loan to pay off the old loan. If you put in the personal context, it's like my credit card debt suddenly becomes 100,000. I need to pay off the interest and principal. So what I can do a balance transfer. So I take a loan from bank B, settle this. But the new loan, this big amount, would actually have a significant difference depending on the interest rate, right?
Yeah, yeah.
6 trillion, if it's just 1% is how much? 0.1% is how much? It's hundreds of billions of dollars. So therefore, most people would agree that the reason US President want the rate come down so much, so fast, is because they want to bring down the cost of financing for the new US debt. Okay. If you're going to read the news, when you wake up tomorrow, excuse me, you will know that the rate is going to remain unchanged or whatever, all right? You will know the result when you wake up. But just don't look at the rate only. You have to look at the statement as in what the Federal Reserve Chairman is going to say about the future, the projection. Whether they are focused more on the inflation data or they are focused more on the unemployment data, because that will be a projection of the future, the remaining movement they're going to do for the rest of the year. This is something that you should we should pay attention to, not just the rate itself, but the content of his speech later. All right, ultimately, many people will know, I think this is a very rare occasion that when you wake up tomorrow morning, you will know the US interest rate decision. And in the afternoon, Malaysia Central Bank will also going to make announcement on the interest rate. All right, but I don't think whatever decision made in US are going to be affect immediately on our just a couple hours, because I think by now Bank Negara would have made a decision by then. But ultimately, in the long term, over the course of US interest rate definitely has a direct and long-term impact on Malaysian interest rate, which is the overnight policy rate. Okay, that's number one. Then number two, what you are seeing China, that just happened like I think a couple of days ago. China has already reduced interest rate, and at the same time they also reduce reserve requirement ratio. Reserve requirement ratio, basically it means that how much money the central bank allowed the bank to lend the money out. For example, if I'm a bank, it comes to me, you want to take whether a housing loan or a car loan, my interest rate will determine whether how much you need to pay for me, right? The principal plus the interest. But the reserve ratio that's set by the central bank will determine bank how much money I want to lend out. If they reduce the reserve ratio, it means I'm opening up the pipe. More people is going to get the loan. More companies going to get the loan. So this is what China government is doing by reducing the reserve ratio. They are letting the bank, whatever the money in the bank, can lend the money out to business, family, to individual. And by doing a 0.5% reduction, they expect to see 1 trillion, not billion, 1 trillion renminbi flowing to the market. Okay, so with this, I think let's wait and see the result, and perhaps we can read into the statement by Federal Reserve Chairman about the projection of the year, And also stay in touch tomorrow, Bank Negara decision.
What's
Okay?
good? So, thank you so much, guys. Thank you for staying tuned. And that's a wrap for our Property Zone. Thank you, Sean, for sharing us your great insights. And is it going to change? Is it going to remain the same?
Let's wait and see.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, bye-bye.